Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our final session of the 2020 HPN University Virtual Campus Tour. And I'm very excited for this final session, which you'll be hearing from our executive panel. These are individuals that implemented the HPN University within their organizations, and we'll get the unique perspective both from the home office level as well as at the field level. And so I'd like to introduce each one of the panelists right now. First of all, Kristen Blakesley, the National Director of Recruiting and Agent Development at One America. Kristen has over 20 years of experience in the financial services space, working with several Fortune 100 companies during her career. Her areas of expertise include diversity recruiting and pipeline development, metrics design, sales coaching, advisor development, and leadership development. Kristen leads the recruiting and advisor development strategy to drive growth, create recruiting excellence, and support the deployment and adoption of innovative recruiting and advisor development initiatives. She and her team work closely with regional vice presidents, firm leaders, and internal partners to execute these initiatives. In her personal life, Kristen can be found enjoying the beach in South Florida, where she resides with her family, and I am very jealous about that part of it. So, Kristen, welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Joey. Thank you. I'm excited to be here with everybody.
Absolutely. Our next panelist, Cooper Carver, Director of Education and Development for American National Insurance Company. Cooper Carver is the Director of Education and Development with more than 14 years of experience in the insurance industry. He oversees the development and delivery of training content to American National's multi-line agents and managers. Cooper specializes in training program design and curriculum development. He's been successful at applying blended instructional design techniques and methodologies using virtual and face-to-face delivery methods, including e-learning and classroom blended training. And he's going to share during COVID some of the things they've been doing to continue to make training and development effective. Cooper, super glad you're with us, buddy. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Joey.
You bet, man. And last but not least, Jason McMahon, or who I refer to as JMac, is the Managing Director, Ontario East Freedom 55 Financial. I know we have a number of you in the Canadian marketplace today, so we're excited to have Jay. In 2008, Jay began his career at Freedom 55 as a financial security advisor. 2010, he was appointed Director of Business Development in the Peterborough Financial Center, where he grew a successful team of advisors with consistent recruiting and selection. So successful that in January of 2015, Jay moved to the head office in London, Ontario, was promoted to the Assistant Vice President, and he was responsible for field management and new advisor value propositions, field relations, and field development, working closely to implement initiatives focused on development for new advisors and field management. And then 2017, he went back to the field as he was appointed the Managing Director of Ontario East, and he managed the offices in regions in Ottawa and Kingston. Jason graduated honors from the University of Windsor, obtained his master's degree, and has his CHS and CFP. He currently lives in the capital region of Canada with his son Fergus and dog Rambo. So Jay, thank you for being here, man. Appreciate it.
And thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And Kristen, let's start with you on this, and we'll go in order. I think it's important to have each of you provide an overview of your distribution system and the structure. That way it provides some context for all of our participants on the call today. So Kristen, why don't you share with us a little bit about the structure at One America?
Yeah, so One America is a true GA system. And when you say that, people are like, well, what do you really mean when you throw the word true in front of that? But really it is, we are here to serve the general agents, and they are out building their practice and their agency in a way that really fits their market, their belief system, and they're growing the agency in a way that aligns to their values. With that said, general agents have the opportunity to do that however they see fit, right? So what works best for them, what works best for their clients, what works best for their community. So we think about bringing something in like HPN, we have to take all of that into consideration, because this isn't really a top-down approach in our GA model. It's more of a partnership style.
Good. And Kristen, about how many agencies do you guys have throughout the United States?
So we just brought on 2 new ones. So right now we have 42 agencies and around 800 agents.
Okay, good. Thank you for that. Cooper, what about you guys on the multi-line space? American National, it's a great large multi-line. Share with us a little bit of your structure of your distribution system.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got about, I think we're at about 1,200 agents, and we've got captive agents. We've got about 100 managers that oversee those agents. We're broken into 9 regions across the U.S. And we've changed our regional structure recently to a regional field executive model, which has been very successful. It's working extremely well. We're seeing a lot of growth. I believe we're in maybe 48 of the 50 states, something like that. So it's been a unique time with COVID, but still bringing people on. I think last month we had our largest intern group that we've seen in 4 years of about 40 interns. So very successful right now, and thankful.
Great, thank you for that. And then, hey, Jay, why don't you share with us Freedom 55's distribution model and how that structure looks?
Yeah, thanks, Joey. So we're all across Canada here. So I lead one of 16 regions across Canada. In our region here, we've got about 140, 145 advisors in different tiers and different tenures. But across Canada, we probably have about 2,500 advisors at this point. Going back to my home office days a few years ago, we were recruiting about 700 new advisors on average. We've toned that down a little bit to around 400 is kind of our goal right now. Certainly this year, we haven't done a lot of hiring through COVID, but we're just starting to open the gates here and bringing new people in. So our bread and butter for the last probably 100 years of us has been bringing new people in and making them successful. Under the mantra of London life in the past, we're always known as the best trainers and developers in Canada. And for the last decade or so, HPN's just been a great partner for us in our own development in there, and it's still integral in what we do today.
By the way, I might just note, Jay and his team just moved into a new office, and it's looking good behind you, buddy. So just wanted to let you know.
You're on one today. No snow though.
You get your money's worth by showcasing it off here, so that's
Absolutely.
great. Hey, let's dig into our content. And Kristen, I'm going to start with you. And what's interesting is, as I think back when we launched out in Arizona in February, which is basically about 2 weeks before COVID hit. I mean, we had no idea, right? And so you guys really launched HPNU in March, and which is crazy to think about. And I just want to direct this specific question to you, since you're the newest of the group here that's had to onboard. And tell me a little bit about, share some of the best practices and strategies that you all use for onboarding and launching HPN University at One America this year.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that we were shaking hands and, sitting by the pool, and then life changed so quickly afterwards. So one of the things in the best practice that we did is we launched it with a change management process. So it wasn't just launched as here's a new tool, here's a new system that you could use, but we really took into account the change that needed to occur in the field in order to have adoption. And so the first part of that change was just awareness. We wanted to make folks aware that they needed to improve their training. They needed to think differently about how they approached people. They needed to think about how they could approach different generations or women or diverse folks. And then we needed to create that desire. And so your team was really helpful. And I bugged you guys in the very beginning to share with me lessons learned from other people and how they shifted, right? So how did this help them retain some new people, attract new people? So I worked really hard to lead up to that desire. And that was that meeting that we did in Arizona, where it was all about creating the groundswell of the desire. Once they had the desire around it, then we hit them with all the knowledge. Then we shared everything about HPN. But I had learned a lesson earlier on in my career that if you just start with, hey, this is what we have, and you didn't do those first two pieces, then nobody really jumps on board. And so we spent much more time being intentional around creating that desire piece for people from the top down. So not just me saying, this is great and you should use it, but then I had my peers coming in behind me and the general agents coming in behind me and the AVPs coming in behind me. I think the other thing that we did was communicate. My 90-year-old great grandmother used to say, nothing matters until it matters. And so I knew that if I communicated it today, but you didn't have anybody knew that you were bringing on board, you weren't going to listen until it really mattered to you. So we constantly communicated to the point where it felt redundant to me, but I just wanted to have the aha moments for people. So I would say those are some of the strategies. The change management process really worked well, and then over communicating helped with the implementation.
And hey, just looking back and knowing that you did it in the beginning of the pandemic, what were some lessons that you learned or picked up on just as a part of onboarding and launching it with the field, especially in you did say it, a pure GA system. So not as easy as in a captive necessarily. So what are some lessons that you learned from that process?
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest lessons I learned is to pay attention to their business as a whole, right? So I know that HPN was my most important initiative at the moment, but they have a lot of things going on. I mean, we just got hit with a pandemic. I live in South Florida, so as you can imagine, we can't get our act together here. And so people had a lot going on. And so I needed to make sure that I was launching in a way that acknowledged and valued everything that they were doing. So it wasn't, hey, listen to this, pay attention to me. It's, hey, how can we help you with your practice? Guess what? HPN can help in that space. And so I think one of the biggest lessons is pay attention to their greater practice as a whole and make sure that you are aligning to that, not just aligning to your own personal goal.
No, it's a good one. And hey, we've talked a lot in our general sessions this week about driving engagement. And Cooper, I want to shift to you, and I want to focus specifically on driving new agent or new advisor engagement in the university. How have you and American National implemented HPNU content into your training curriculum for new multi-line agents?
Yeah, good question, Joey. So HPN videos are not only part of the internship program, but also a really large part of the training curriculum for, our new multiple line agent training. So once our agents become contracted, as we all know, their education journey is really just kind of kicking off and beginning. One of the series that we've been promoting heavily to the new agents is the virtual coach. I think it's got something like 48 sessions, delivers one video a week. The agent can watch it on their cell phone or computer. And I think back and I remember to pre-COVID to where that was ideal. I may be sitting in the airport on a Friday morning, this video comes through, I can click on it, I can watch it on my mobile device. And I think nowadays that's really just the expectation for new advisors and new agents who are coming into the business. They've got YouTube, they've got Instagram, everything at their fingertips that they can access immediately. So to have this, watch the video anywhere, anytime on their computer, and integrate it into that new learning path for them, I think is critical.
Very good. And then Jason, you guys at Freedom 55, explain Freedom 55's initial training roadmap, or what they refer to as the Career Accreditation Program, or CAP, and how that works in conjunction with the university.
Yeah, that's certainly, it's been an involvement of probably where we were 10 years ago when we started implementing HOOPUS into our curriculum, and then the involvement from 2017 to a kind of a more solidified curriculum. And so you think about us bringing in probably 5 to 6 different schools of advisors per year. We have a curriculum set up for 4 to 5 weeks in there, and typically now we go in a half-day structured environment where they were coming into our training office. We like them coming in, being part of the culture and meeting people and rubbing shoulders with the advisors. So obviously that's all virtual over the last, since March, I guess. But seems to be still different ways that we make that work. But using HOOPUS, so we have the video set up in part of the curriculum during the day, and then in the afternoon it's kind of homework time where they do it on their own accord. We have a video, we might have a course assignment that HOOPUS provides through HPNU, and it's the next thing that you take up in the next morning, or for their director. So we have a trainer who does the training, then they have their director that they report to, like a staff leader. So that person would follow up with the video, with the content, and it's paint by numbers approach through it. And so it might be the day early on in the curriculum where we're talking about prospecting. So we go to Joey's 3-minute video talking about prospecting. It kind of kicks it off when they're starting to make those calls, those initial first joint fieldwork appointments. And for me, it's nice when we start off each one of those schools that I can go back 12 years ago when I was sitting in the same classroom as a brand new advisor and talking about what HOOPUS meant for me. And I'll talk about that, I think, maybe in the next question. But to be able to sit there and say, here's the impact that HPNU made for me 10 years ago, continues to make, it's pretty impactful to start them on the right foot.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing that, buddy. Kristen, with you all, we mentioned, a pure GA system where you don't have control over the firms. What are some of the things that you and your team have implemented to drive engagement with newer advisors at One America?
Yeah, sometimes that no control is a little bit of a blessing, right? Because it gives me pause to make sure that I'm providing them things that are incredibly valuable, and I have to put myself in their chair. So I have to really think about what are they asking for and what do they need and what matters most to them. And so for some of those newer advisors, I love it that you said virtual coach, Cooper, because we do the same thing with some of those newer advisors. We put ourselves in their chair and said, where are they? What matters most, and where do they need to be? And how do we meet them there? And so with the newer advisors, we really focused on what their initial challenges are, what they're worried most about, and then built a curriculum around that. Versus, I would say in the past, mistakes that we made was we thought about what mattered to us. We want to get that out to you. And so HPN has really allowed us to create a curriculum and mold a curriculum that aligns to the values of the new folks that we're bringing on board. With that, we've also, like I said earlier, we've over communicated to our general agents and provided them with the tools and skills and knowledge to even add HPN in their recruiting language, so that they're already introducing it to those newer advisors up front. So they're expecting it and they're excited about it. And they're asking for it. So we're pushing it from both ends, right? We're pushing it with the advisor, we're pushing it from the manager. And I think that has been huge. And then the last thing that we've done with some of the newer folks is all of us know on the phone that we can share something with them, but if it's shared from their peers, it's more impactful. And so we've been sharing testimonials from, like Jason just said, he can look back and see where he's been and tell that story. And so we look to some of our newer folks who are, a little bit further down the road to share those testimonials with the brand new people, so that they're not just trusting our advice, but they're leading and learning from others.
Very good. And hey, Chris, I want to pick up on something you mentioned about communicating that in the recruiting process as part of a value prop. I've done talks in the industry over the last few years about attracting the next generation. And one thing that we found from Limmer research is that recruiting managers still pitch, eat what you kill or making a lot of money or those things, and training and development is secondary. And when I ask a number of recruiting managers, how many of you are talking about what you're providing on training and development and things? And it amazes me, that everyone's not doing that and saying, hey, these are the things that we're going to be providing you when you join us for ongoing, not only initial training, but ongoing development, and especially for millennials and the next generation coming behind them, the Gen Z, something that's really important. And being able to show an innovative tool and training and development that we know is very important to them should be a part of that recruiting value prop. And I know with your recruiting and background in recruiting, you was sure to link those two up. So that's really good.
Well, it's so important because we rely on you to get all your training from one manager that you might not be fully connected to in every single way. But HPN allows you to hear from all different types of people. So you can find somebody who resonates with you. And so I encourage them to tell folks, you're not the end all be all. You've got this tool where if they want to hear from a young man that's African American, or they want to hear from a woman, or they want to hear from somebody with 25 years of experience, you don't have to be everything for them. And there's a huge value to that. And that's what millennials and Gen Zs are looking for.
That's great. Hey, Cooper, back to you. You mentioned internship program, and I know a lot of companies are interested in creating internship programs as a feeder system. Tell us a little bit more about the internship program. How is that structured? And how have you incorporated the university and learning paths, kind of custom learning paths, if you will, with that internship program?
Yeah, absolutely. So to kind of back up to where we started 4 years ago, I think back before we utilized HPN and kind of what that looked like. And we had a face-to-face training program only. All the new interns would come in for a week. We'd try to fill their heads with all the possible information we could, thinking that they're going to leave and learn everything, take everything, and be set for day one. We found that was obviously not the solution. That didn't work to try to pack everything into a week face-to-face. And so we had to look at it from a standpoint of what can we do to shift to a virtual environment, and what does that look like, and how can we make that effective? And so, we partnered with HPN. We worked on developing a program. And so what we did is we built a 2 to 3 month internship program that includes a lot of HPN content. And I say 2 to 3 months, it just depends on the experience of that individual. So, if we've got an individual who's fresh out of college and, they're a good fit for American National, they're probably going to go through the 3 month program to where they can learn maybe more of these skills. Let's say we've got an agent who's coming from another organization, another company, they have a skill set and they want to learn our products. They may go through that 8 week program. And so what we've done is we've incorporated this HPN content to kind of complement our product training. So for example, when they're learning about our life products, we incorporate HPN content on fact finding or professional insurance reviews. And so what we found that the courses that HPN offers, those videos, and the product courses that we've got, we can pair those up and they complement each other very well, and they're a great blend. So we found that it has been very effective, very successful. We received a lot of hesitation when we went from a face-to-face classroom training 4 years ago to a virtual environment. But I'll say that first year that we switched that virtual environment, we had our best year ever when it came to sales and production. So, kind of the proof of this is in the pudding, I guess, type of term there. So, been very effective, and I know we'll talk about the support that we've got from HPN, but that's been a critical piece to our interim program as well, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, it's been very successful.
Yeah, and now you look brilliant, Cooper, in COVID. Hey, man, we had missed a beat, so that's good. I appreciate that. And then, hey, Jay, moving to the field perspective around this and kind of engagement, if you will, what are your weekly development meetings, and how you and your team using the university in those meetings with your advisors?
Yeah, this is definitely my bread and butter here, these weekly development meetings. Taking someone from day 0 to day 365 is the most critical year in their career. So we try and develop all the right habits through that. So in a weekly development meeting, you think about, and I think I heard you or Melissa say on Tuesday that maybe 1% of your week is built on self-development or something low like that, which it's mind-boggling. But then I think about my own today, and I don't know, some days, some weeks I'm only doing 1% myself. So we've got a captive advisor for 1 hour per week that's focused on just their development. So often we'll do it in 2 different ways. We either assign a video before the meeting to just kind of give them that 7 minutes or so on average to watch that before we come in. Their director will sit down and kind of review that, or often we'll sit down and watch it together. So we pick whatever the topic is that makes the most sense. So as they're reporting the results, whether they're struggling from the first appointment, they're fact finding, they're telephoning, closing, whatever it is, instead of them hearing the same person or their training manager, director, or myself at nauseam, they're taking an expert in the field that can talk about that for 7 minutes and do a lot of that lifting for the manager. So I think about the sales manager there that's trying to parlay something, and I'm losing my skills in being in the field sometimes because I'm not out there in front of clients the way I was in the past. So we do that. So we assign it at the front end, or sometimes you discover through that hour kind of what their real problem is, and then we can take the video and assign it to follow up in the future, whether it's that next week or 2 days later, or supplementary training. So it's just that's been kind of the one linchpin within our WDM that we have to do, on top of a number of other things. But that's been our main key of success, I think, inside of those WDMs.
Good. And then, Jay, you mentioned your training manager on your team, and there's a number of people on the call today that might have regional training managers, or they might have that role in their firms, or let's say on the MGA side or the carrier side, maybe that's a wholesaler or a marketer that's working with advisors. Talk just a little bit more about your training manager and their involvement with executing the university and the organization.
Yeah, so I'll answer that maybe in twofold. So we'll take a roundtable and our own management meeting on a weekly basis, and we'll talk about what's come up with our new advisors. So we have 3 managers in Ottawa and 2 in Kingston that are focused on new advisor development. And we'll hear about, like, what are the trending topics that we're hearing our advisors maybe struggling on, or an opportunity to improve on. And that's shared with the training managers. So we do Tuesday training and Friday training every week. Usually one is a more product-based training, and the other one's more sales-focused training. So typically on the sales-focused training, we'll grab a Hoopus video or some of the content within one of the coursework within that, and use that to take a little bit of lift off of the trainer trying to come up with their own content or curriculum within that. And it's a nice one to kick off the training, open discussion, or sometimes depending on the speaker, maybe it's just the way we end that training. So our training manager, we've got 2 of them. They do a great job of grabbing that content. They don't use it every week, but they use it pretty often within that. And then sometimes it's supplementary within product training as well, because our product people are great at product, but sometimes taking the product knowledge and implementing it into a way that an advisor can actually use that in the field in front of a client. Sometimes there's a disconnect there, so they're able to blend that together and use HPN for that. On top of that, the second part, just the course curriculum, they may assign it to, and our trainers, they work probably 70% with our new advisors, but there's 30% of that where they just pick up working with some of our senior advisors, and there might be just some key trending topics within that they're just struggling with, and they've probably struggled with it for years. We do full planning, so we might see people that do a lot of life and not a lot of critical illness or disability or money, the wealth side of it, or vice versa. So they can kind of take some of that curriculum within HPN and assign that out and work with those more senior advisors on that as well. That's something we've got an opportunity to grow in that one with the new training manager, but he's starting to see the opportunity within HPNU.
Very good. And then just a last couple of things on the engagement. Let's shift to experienced or veteran advisor engagement, which can be a little bit trickier. Kristen, do you have a different strategy for driving engagement with established or veteran producers?
Yeah, it's interesting. When Cooper said the word complement, I wrote that down because our strategy really is built around complementing what they're currently doing. And I found that bringing any sort of resource like HPN doesn't work well if we don't take the time to understand what their gaps and challenges are. And so as part of our onboarding and bringing this with engagement is we worked with our sales managers and general agents to do a gap analysis with their senior advisors to really help them understand and uncover, and like I said earlier on, create that desire, right? So we help them get uncomfortable so that they could understand what their gaps are, and then HPN could help solve those. And so our approach there was much more strategic and intentional. Although as we were working with our inexperienced advisors, I don't want to say it wasn't intentional. It was just slightly different. With our experienced people, we took a much more business approach to it to show them how HPN could really help expand their practice, and these are the gaps that you're trying to expand. I also love that you said trending topics and what they're focused on, because it's the same thing, right? When we had COVID hit, we were bringing them, I mean, Samantha was getting an email on you from me, a couple times a week, like, I need to get something in front of them. They're panicking. And so the other thing with our experienced advisors is we wanted to be real time and we wanted to be relevant. So it wasn't really built around, again, this is the greater model. This is what is your business problem today? And I mean, you can see from the results and from what you guys provided us, they really did just adopt it easily and excited.
Yeah, I think that's a good perspective, Kristen, especially because we have some people in the independent space on here. And so as you think about if I'm a wholesaler or marketer, and, I always say, like, for wholesalers, if you're still leading with product, you're a dinosaur, because advisors can get that anywhere. But you have to bring practice management ideas and target marketing and business development. And you're really in kind of a hybrid system there of dealing with that. And then the other thing, I had another good thing I was going to say, and I lost it. Maybe it'll come back to, I know what it was. The other thing, you guys talking about, like, what's hot topic right now. So you saw that we published courses this year on working virtually, building a digital practice. This week, our master's series that's done for HPN University clients is Adam Holt of Asset Map. That's going to be in November. That's for 15 years. He's built the digital practice, right? And that's exactly what we're going to cover in that master's series, which is another benefit that our members of the university get from being a part of it. We usually get 500 plus attendees of those, and a number of managers will bring troops together in the old world for lunch and learns and things. So I did want to point that out, is even the master series changes based on what might be the hot topic of the day. And Cooper, with you all, you're doing some unique things to promote the university content to your more seasoned agents. Tell us a little bit about that.
Excuse me. Yeah, so, Kristen mentioned the word communication. And so that's one of the things that I think is a priority for everyone. But what that looks like is, for us, we've really had to find a way that we can communicate effectively with our agents. And I'm sure everyone runs into the same issue to where we get 1,000 emails a day, and to expect them to hunt and peck for this email that says, hey, here's a great video on HPN to watch. We really encourage you to watch it because it'll add value to your practice. Well, I think it's important. At the end of the day, they're so busy, and finding that priority may just not be there for them. So what we started doing about a year ago is we started what we call our Friday Sales Tooltip Series. It features a 2-minute video every Friday that we put together in-house And to be honest, you know, looking back to when we started this, it's probably October of last year, you know, none of us could have expected what would happen with COVID and the shutdown and the virtual piece that would come with that. You know, but one of the things that we received a lot of feedback on when we did one of these videos was Tiffany Markarian, you know, and she's got a great video. I think it's Ask James, and it talks about success in your target market. You know, and so in this short, less than 2-minute video we created, it touches on a few of the key points from the video, really with the goal of trying to draw the agent in and getting them to go watch that entire video in HPN. There's so much great content in HPN. We found that if we can highlight and make recommendations on certain videos that would be most applicable to them right now, you know, that will keep them coming back. That'll keep them hungry and thirsty for more content that they can come back and watch. So, you know, that's one of the things that has been very successful for us. And I can't remember, Joe, I can't remember if we shared one of those videos with you and your team that we developed, that short 2-minute video, but we find they can watch it on their mobile device, and you know, it's just been very helpful for them.
Cooper, you did, and I was completely blown away. I mean, my team showed it to me. I'm like, man, they are taking it next level of marketing to the field on this. So that was excellent. I love that one.
I want to see that, Cooper.
Oh, Kristen, go ahead. What?
All right.
Yeah, definitely. We need an HPN University study group to come out of this. So.
Right. Agreed.
Hey, J-Mac, just one thing I want to say, not a question to you, but just a comment, because we have so many Canadian representatives on here. One thing we did with Freedom 55 is we worked with the home office to build a custom field mastery program that is in English and French. And what it's designed to do is for the training managers that Jay mentioned, they have to complete this field mastery program, and it's on advanced topics like practice management, target marketing, team selling, so that they are now versed to be able to work with experienced producers to help them in their practice. So again, field mastery program, it's customized. We work with Freedom 55 to build it out. It's in French and English. And so that's an example of not the advisor learning from it or the leader, it's the trainer learning advanced concepts so they are more relevant to those experienced consultants and producers. So I just wanted to mention that.
C'est magnifique, Monsieur Joey.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So I want to say support. These are a couple questions from for Kristen and Cooper in particular, the home office level. Kristen, how did you work with the HPN team, in particular Samantha on our team, who does an excellent job, one of our account managers, and she's producing behind the scenes today. So thanks, Samantha, for that. How did you work with the HPN team to get your distribution system onboarded and launched? And so in other words, like what kind of support resources are available, not only then, but just ongoing?
Let me tell you a little bit of something about Samantha. If there was a fan club, I would be the president of the Samantha fan club. And I think what struck me as funny is I was like, wait, I'm not her only client. So she treated us as we were her only person that she was working with. And by that, I mean, she jumped into really understanding our overall strategy so that she could help us launch it, not just training us on what it was, what the tools are, but she took the time to really understand what our goals are, what our gaps are, what our concerns were, what success would look like in the future, so that we could have a strategic approach to onboarding. And I would say that, and I've launched things like this over the course of 20 years, but that's the first time that somebody has really taken a pause and even pushed back on some things to make some recommendations that shaped how we did it. And so the resources that she provided us really matched what our goals were, not just this is what's available, good luck, go ahead. But I said, Samantha, this is our challenge. These are the things that they're going to push back on. We need to immediately provide them with things that they're going to have wins. We've got to get our managers on board. And she was able to help us craft a plan that matched all of that. And through that, we had a very successful, actually, the launch felt really good. I didn't realize it was as good as it was until she showed us all the numbers, because it felt good to me, but I wasn't digging in behind the scenes. But I think the major resource that I would recommend if anybody is looking at a tool like HPN and support is to get them involved in your overall strategy, because the work she did around understanding that and continues to do with understanding that has been invaluable. Right now we're in the middle of a big recruiting contest, and every 2 weeks I send her an email and say, give me the latest courses that you think are going to jazz them up. And I didn't tell Samantha this, but last month we had our highest recruiting month out of 2020 and 2019. So combined. So just really, really good at being excited and aligned to our strategy.
Yeah, that's great. We appreciate you saying that. And we always say, Melissa said this a few times, HPN, when it comes to university, is an extension of your home office team.
Yes.
And we pride ourselves on it. Every enterprise client gets an account manager, but also relationship manager. And I even give my team permission and say, look, if you see a home office going down the wrong path, push back. You know, you have to step in. We're the experts to some extent, at least with the university. And I'm kind of proud when they do that, of course, in a polite way, usually. So, and then, Cooper, I want to take just a little bit of a different angle with you, not to just reiterate what Kristen said, but in particular, why don't you talk about the support you received in building some custom learning paths? And I think Maureen was involved with that. You guys saw Maureen on the session on Tuesday. She is not only our content manager, but our engagement specialist. So just share with us the support from the content standpoint.
Yep, absolutely. So, you know, when we started this journey 3 years ago to update that agent internship program, the goal was to incorporate these videos that would really make our agents day one ready. You know, so we're preparing them to be day one ready. Courses on topics like fact finding and telephoning and prospecting. You know, and as times have changed, we've had to change training as well on what we're providing to them. So where 3 years ago, courses and a lot of topics on telephoning may have been very applicable, nowadays, social media, you know, we're finding is a huge point that they can use to kind of leverage their business. And I'll say we're actually working with Maureen currently and Melissa to update our content. So, you know, they made great content recommendations when we met 3 years ago, and now we're going through the process again. And I provided Maureen with, hey, here's what we're using right now. You know, what recommendations do you have on updated videos, updated content? And she put together this excellent list that we could use, that we could go through. And we've been going through it for probably the last 6 weeks and identifying these specific videos, again, that complement our product training very well. And so, you know, we're going to be in a position probably this month that we can, you know, meet with her and Melissa and say, you know, here's what we had 3 years ago. Based on your recommendations on some of these videos, here's what we're going to swap out and work on building, you know, truly that customized and updated curriculum that we can assign these agents. So, you know, I will very much brag on Maureen. She has been a tremendous resource. You know, I remember a lot of the meetings that we would have, and with the whole COVID thing, you know, we're both drinking LaCroix, and I'm looking out in the patio from her Chicago loft, you know, and she gets the view of the country in Springfield, Missouri. So again, you know, what Kristen said, the support, the resource that you guys are providing and the help has truly been valuable because, you know, putting my team on it and saying, hey, you know, pick from these 5,000 plus videos what we want to incorporate in the intern program, you know, that would be nearly impossible.
That's a great point, man. And then I might add also, Cooper, we added a multi-line specific section this year, about 30 videos, and right now Troy Korsgaard, Mark Mittiello, Jim Bologna, and we'll be adding more to that as well, and hopefully some American National top producers. Hey, just Cooper, leave it with you just for one moment. You guys have done a great job on accountability and reporting. Melissa talked about that in the last session. Just talk about how you guys are utilizing the reporting to hold agents accountable. What are you doing with this?
Yeah, so, you know, that's one thing that I'll say. The reporting functionality with an HPN is extremely robust. It provides us the ability to break down the information by region, by hierarchy, and we're really using the information quarterly, monthly at times to identify those regions, those managers that are extremely engaged, finding out what they're doing to engage those individuals, and then trying to replicate that in the other regions. So, you know, we can pull that information. I can not only share it up with my boss and say, okay, you know, here's where we're being effective. Here's some of the content that is best. Here's what we can do to improve that. And so that's one thing I'll say, that reporting feature is easy to use. I can export it to an Excel spreadsheet and, you know, share it with one of our regions, and they can try to duplicate what's working in another one.
Excellent. Appreciate that. And you guys saw in the last session, we have some new robust reporting that Samantha on our team has experience and background in that. Melissa showed kind of the regional, and we're super excited about that because you can run it and really kind of create some competition. if you will, amongst even regions. So that's kind of the next level for us. So just kind of as we conclude on here, I kind of have different perspectives I want each of you to share. And Kristen, you talked about this a little bit at the top of the hour today, but talk about the importance of creating buy-in from the top, from senior leadership, all the way down, to the leaders in the field in order to make this happen. I mean, you could make the case that it's a bigger challenge, you know what I mean, in your type of distribution system, and so it's even more important there. But just talk about the importance of that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm a former varsity cheerleader, but I'm not that good. I cannot do it by myself. And we definitely needed the buy-in from the top in order to make this successful and happen. And I think that went from a couple of ways. I needed the top leadership to understand the challenges and the gaps that we were trying to fill for the folks that are in the field. So I needed them to understand what the business case was. And then I also needed them to really understand how they could support that, right? So not just, these are the challenges that folks are feeling, but this is your role in helping them close that gap through acknowledging HPN and getting them excited about it. And so we really started at the very top with the CEO that you spent time with when we were together in Arizona, and really explaining how this was forward thinking and taking us to the future. Somebody said the next generation of talent, and I was like, yes, how is this going to impact us, sustainability for the future? And so we spent a lot of time with that buy-in, and we did not launch until we knew we had it. Because if we launched prior to having that buy-in, then I was going to be fighting the message both ways. I'm going to be fighting the message to make sure that senior leadership was behind it, fighting the message to make sure that the GAs were behind it, fighting the message, and it just wasn't going to work. So we started at the top, and then we kept moving down. Once the senior leaders understood the business case, then we went to the GAs and we shared with them, these are the challenges that your team is having and how can you fill that? Then we went to the experience advisors. Hey, this is what the new guys are struggling with. We're going to bring this tool in to help you, and you can help them. And it really became this groundswell of excitement and effort around it. And then one of the other things that we do with that buy-in is we communicate something about HPN in every communication I send to the field. It doesn't matter what I'm talking about. There's something in HPN that can align to it. If I'm talking about recruiting, if I'm talking about sales, if I'm talking about the weather, there was something that I'm going to share from HPN that I want them to take a look at so that they can understand that it is something that's valuable to every aspect of their business.
Very good. Thank you for that. Cooper, a little bit different angle on the outro here. We've talked a lot about COVID and the pandemic, and you guys are doing some really cool stuff around using the content and discussion guides for virtual regional meetings. Share with us how that's worked since the pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think a couple of the terms that both you and Kristen have used is trending topics, and I think that's a big piece of this question for us. We've really been promoting those tools and resources right now that, like you said, are effective during this time. One of the things that I can think back on is you developed a series on working remotely and staying productive. We used our Friday Sales Tooltip series to promote this. We got a lot of engagement out of it, got a lot of positive feedback, and I want to say it was maybe a short 3 to 4 part series that you guys had developed, produced, and again, it allowed us to promote that to the field. So again, those trending topics that are most applicable to draw on that engagement. One of the opportunities with our field specialists and managers is, we'll work to identify a series or video, a lot of those that have discussion guides, like you said, Joey, and then allow them to use that during their team meeting. So this allows them to build discussion around the key points with their agents. One of the series that comes to mind is a 24-month curriculum. Again, that's one that they can assign. They get a weekly video. They can then identify, okay, hey, here would be a great one to discuss in our next team meeting that's virtual, building a solid referral practice, something like that. And then, they build deep discussion around this. They ask questions. And again, we're setting them up for success by helping them and nudging them on, hey, here's a great video, or here's a great, point that you guys can discuss in your next meeting. So it's been very effective and helpful, especially during this time.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And then Jay, I'll let you have the final question here. You've been utilizing the university for a decade, basically. So as an advisor at the field level, as we mentioned, frontline leader, home office executive, and now as a managing director, you know, running a multi-firm region, if you will. How has your experience with the university over all these years, over time, how has that evolved, and where do you continue to find value? And just any last thoughts on it?
Yeah, so like I was thinking about that when we were talking last week, and going back to the early days and trying to make phone calls on a Monday night, sitting there and getting rejected a couple times, then mindset not good. Able to go into Hoopus and watch a video to just crank my mindset into something positive and hear someone give me some better language and things to use, pick that really heavy phone back up and kind of run with it. It helped a lot. There was an app called Phone Buddy, and I remember sitting in our telephone booth where we'd make our calls, and I could use that, and there's a bit of language, and it was just kind of a nice little resource to have that was quick and easy. Same thing, like getting prepared for appointments and things like that. My business coach, he's not available instantly all the time. He was pretty good, but it's nice to hear from others through that. And I remember there was a video called Reconditioning Your Limiting Beliefs. And when I flipped from being a full-time advisor into a frontline leader and started to manage my own team and bring them in, I was able to redraw on my experience using the videos, using Phone Buddy, using different ones to say, like, this is what worked for me. This is the difference it made for me. Here's what I'd suggest, but why don't you go explore that? Because I'm not going to be available all the time for you, but I could point them in the right direction. Same kind of thing that Kristen and Cooper were saying. Here's some curricular, here's some different things, but go find a little bit more on your own as you kind of go. So that helped a lot. On top of that, so you're recruiting new advisors in, and we would bring them in. You go through kind of 3-4 different interviews, and one of them we'd always put them in and have the video with Harry Hoopus talking about the golden age in financial services, the golden age of business in there. It's about a 40-minute video, but it was fantastic to sit down 1 or 2 recruits and let them watch that and sit and watch them watch that and the difference that that video made for them. Sometimes it was enough to just make that decision for that initial recruit. So it was pretty great to experience the ups and downs as a successful new advisor, and knowing that I almost quit about 5 or 6 times, and I could share that in my first year with people that I bring in. Like, when you're up high, you're going to have a low day, and when you're low day, the next corner is going to be a high day. So keep using different Hoopus videos as resources to kind of take it, make it a little bit more like that. So that's been great. And as I transition into home office, you could kind of pick out different pockets. Like, my bread and butter has always been new advisor success. It's where my heart is. So we could pick out different pockets across Canada where new advisor success was high, but it meant a lot more where new advisor success was a little bit lower. We could kind of go in and kind of see what the issues were. And Hoopus was a great solution. It was always an additive. It wasn't always the main thing for us to use. Like, it was habit forming and things like that. But the additive that Hoopus was able to do the lifts with helped a ton through that. So that helped us in different pockets within Canada when I was in the home office. But it really prepared me to come back in the field 3 years ago and taking over a pretty large region where new advisor success was low traditionally here. Top advisor success was high, but we've turned that around, and just instilling the things that I learned as an advisor and as a frontline leader, and that to take, here's what we did, here's what you can implement, and then the evolvement of what Hoopus is today versus what it was 10 years ago. It's far more easier to use. There's a lot more depth in it, and every single topic that you need is there. But what concerns me today is, like, there's so much content out there. And I see advisors coming in, they go on LinkedIn or they go wherever, and they're going down rabbit holes of 1,000 different experts out in the industry, but most often not even in the industry, but they're listening to these different people, and I keep directing them back. Hoopus is safe. Like, it's a safe place. It's your default spot to go look for things. Stop going in those rabbit holes on the internet and finding things. So Hoopus has been a great on-demand kind of coach for us. It's been a good coach for our managers as they polish their skills before they go and sit down with their new advisors. And I give you thanks. I owe a lot of success in my career over the last 10, 12 years to the support and everything that Harry, Joey, Maggie, and the team has provided with me and my teams.
Hey, thanks for that, man. That's really good. And you know what I love the most is you quoting old Hoopus classics like Limiting Beliefs and the others, man. You're definitely one of the old schools when you're throwing out some of those. So That's really good. Hey, what I will do is open it up right now just to see if there's any questions. You guys have been very thorough. So what you all can do is on your panel or at the bottom, it has Q&A. If there's any questions for anyone out there, be sure to type those questions in now. And if you want to direct it to anyone in particular, again, you guys are pretty thorough. So all those questions might be answered. Or if after the call today, if you want to ask any of our panelists a specific questions, you can email us info@hoopus.com, info@hoopus.com, and we will get the answer directly from them. I think this is unique perspectives in here. Of course, you've got Jay, who's got the field experience, the home office experience, now back to the field and leadership. You've got Cooper, who has the multi-line experience for our multi-line participants that have been on this call. And then, of course, Kristen, who has kind of that pure GA, which is not really captive, but having success and be able to implement that out there. So info@hoopus.com if you guys have a question after the fact for us. I want to try to adhere to our time here, but email us and we'll get the answer back. Panel, I got to tell you, oh man, you guys knocked it out of the park. I mean, this was a blast. I wish I could carry all three of you around in my pocket and pull you out anytime when I need some great testimonials. You guys have been great partners. You're great advocates. We really appreciate it. We know you're busy, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate you spending time to share your experiences and thoughts with everyone today. So thank you so much. And I want to thank everyone out there that's been involved with us over the last two general sessions this week. We walked in and talked about an overview of the university. We looked at trends in learning and development and how some of the biggest challenges out there, we've developed resources and tools to overcome that. Melissa Maureen talked specifically about engagement and some of the best practices, whether that's learner experience or certain tools or advocacy or communication, and how to drive that engagement in the field. Earlier this morning, Melissa talked specifically getting more into some nitty-gritty things about how we can help you execute and implement. You're not there to do it alone. We're here to help you do that. And there's lots of tools and resources, and hopefully you downloaded that implementation guide that she provided to you. If you didn't get a chance to do that, email us at info@hoopus.com. We're very happy to share that with you. There's lots of good nuggets and ideas on creating alignment throughout the organization and launching it. And then to conclude with this incredible executive panel, I can't thank them enough for that. We hope that this was very informative for you all this week. We'd love to schedule a consultation with you and your team just to talk about some of your issues that you've been dealing with in the learning and development space, especially in 2020, as we're all dealing with this pandemic and having to adjust. So email us at info@hoopus.com. Heck, email me, joey@hoopus.com. I'll give you direct access to the bat phone, joey@hoopus.com. If you have questions to schedule a consultation with us, we'd be very happy to help and even just provide some advice to you if you're dealing with certain issues. But we'd love to find a way to either pilot the university or work with you to figure out what your content gaps or learning and development needs are. So thanks, everyone. We appreciate it. Have a great rest of the day.